Hi, thank you for having us. My name is Fourre, is my beautiful wife, Vera, and we're here today to have a tough discussion. We're here today to talk about something that really doesn't really get talked about, and that is the dangers now of recreational drug use. In Manitoba, we hear of an opioid crisis. And in that crisis, a lot of emphasis has been put on addiction. And what happened to my family, to us, didn't involve addiction. I don't know if you remember the incident in the Paw in April of 2023, made national news about tainted drugs. And there were 6 men found in one establishment, and one of those men died. Well, the man that died was my son. And it was really devastating to hear that, because Harlan was a really good boy. He was a really good young man. He was 31. He worked at the same job for 10 years. He had the last couple payments on his car. He was trying to get everything ready in his life so that he could get married and have children and start his life as we all hope to do. Unfortunately, that night, he left Winnipeg to go and do some work on a roof up in the Paw. And the crew that he went out with that night bought something that they were told was ecstasy, and it was almost pure fentanyl. And it killed him. When I told Harlan's boss, he couldn't believe it. He said, "I can't believe this, Joe, because Harlan didn't do drugs." As a matter of fact, when we would finish a roof, Harlan, and somebody would pull out something, Harlan would say, "No, thanks, I'm good. I'll stick to my beer." So that's where the slogan comes in, "No, thanks, I'm good." These are his words. And we went public because of the fact that I didn't want my son to be just another statistic in this opioid crisis. He wasn't a drug addict. He had no characteristics of addiction whatsoever, made a bad choice. As a matter of fact, he survived addiction because I'm a recovering addict. I'm 5 years in recovery. I'm an opioid addict. I was addicted to heroin, suffered with addiction for most of my life, 40 years. So he survived that. His mother and I, Vera is not his mother. His mother and I, we had serious addictions. And she was in recovery. And 2 years before Harlan died, she was in recovery. She was doing well. She was clean for about 6 months. And then on her birthday, she decided to buy herself a treat. She liked crack cocaine and cocaine. She bought one rock, did one hit, and then the kids found her 2 days later. She died of fentanyl poisoning. So our family, my kids, got really hit hard over the last few years with fentanyl and fentanyl poisoning. I call it fentanyl poisoning, and I'm trying to change the narrative because this is what it is. It's fentanyl poisoning. It's not fentanyl overdose. It's fentanyl poisoning. And being a filmmaker, I had an opportunity to direct the narrative on the message that we were trying to present to the public. We went public because of that fact, because, Harlan wasn't an addict, and I thought, but this was a message that really needed to be heard, that wasn't being told. And we'll show you a short film that we produced, and then we'll talk a little bit more. Two months ago, my son Harlan was a victim of fentanyl poisoning. He was a good man. We lost a good man that day. I didn't want him to just be another statistic.
That drum song is asking Creator to bless us and to be with us during our time here. We're gathered here for a very important purpose that affects the lives of our people, of our friends and our families. The beginning of something beautiful that needs to be heard by the people, by all our relatives that are affected.
I don't want to do this. I didn't choose this. I didn't choose to be without my son. And I'm so angry that this is the only place where I can put my anger and create some change so that hopefully that no other parent, brother, sister has to feel this.
Target our youth because they are the next generation. They are our next up-and-coming leaders, and we want to make sure that they have strong peer circles, strong supports, so that they have the ability to comfortably say, no thanks, I'm good.
A lot of people don't know what they're getting into, and it only takes one time.
Drugs have no discrimination against any people.
It is important because fentanyl is killing a lot of our people on the streets, and it's the #1 killer right now out there.
This is important to us because we lost a lot of we lost some friends that we care about and that are our family.
One of the things that I want people to be aware of is that it's just as easy to say no that it is for yes.
My name is Nicole Lavatier, and I was Harlan's sister. I'm praying that each and every one of us who have lost someone to this devastating tragedy, and to give our hearts strength so that we may march and walk throughout our life's journey so that we may help others make that choice to feel confident with saying these simple, most polite words. And that's no thanks, I'm good.
I want to see change. You know, we stand in front of this building today and we expect them to legislate laws that will help protect us. You know, we entrust them with the things and the decisions that they make. But I'm telling you, they can't make those changes without us. They can't solve this problem without us. You know, we look to the police who escorted us today, and I thank them very much for that, for keeping us safe on the road as we walked here. But they can't fix this problem for us. We have to. So I'm telling communities all across the country to start rising up, have these walks of their own, teach their children to say, no thanks, I'm good. There is a gap between the victim and the dealer. We have people freely sharing recreational drugs thinking that they're gonna have a good time and dying. These are some of the things that I want to talk about. And I really thank you for your support and showing up. Yes, I'm angry. I'm furious that my son died this way. Anger is made to motivate you to create a change in what you're angry about. And I'm angry at the way that fentanyl is running wild in our streets, killing our youth, and nobody's saying nothing about it. Well, Harlan was a very polite man, not a malicious bone in his body. And just saying, no thanks, I'm good, is polite, no thanks. And empowering, I'm good. I'm good. I'm good without that. Yeah, that was a march we had in June in Winnipeg to kind of kick off this whole campaign that we are trying to really emphasize to our youth, that things have to change. Growing up, drugs were very different back then. The whole persona of drug doing was very different. We didn't have fentanyl. We didn't have carfentanil. We didn't have all these other additives now that are being mixed. You saw some numbers up there. And one of the most alarming numbers was that fentanyl poisoning is fast becoming the #1 killer of youth ages 10 to 29. So just that alone is telling me that, well, a 10-year-old is not an addict. A 12-year-old is not an addict. They're trying something. They're curious. And it's sad because nobody was talking about this. You saw a number up there, 418 deaths last year. And after my son's death, I wanted to understand what these numbers meant. We hear a lot of advocates, for harm reduction and all these things using these numbers, and I really wanted to understand because my son wasn't an addict. So after talking with the statistician at the coroner's office, he broke it down for me. And of those 418 deaths that we had in 2022, 226, more than half, where they found fentanyl as a primary or contributing factor. Primary, there was only 5 deaths. Contributing, 221. That was fentanyl mixed with marijuana, cocaine, Molly, ecstasy, all these drugs that our youth classify as recreation. They have no idea what's lurking within them. It's really important for parents, and I plead to you, these are hard conversations to sit down and have with your child, your youth, to have these conversations without condemnation, without litigation, without bargaining, to get them to understand that it's okay to say, no thanks, I'm good. And when we thought about no thanks, I'm good, and branding no thanks, I'm good, we thought about those words. There hasn't been a national anti-drug campaign in Canada, period. We looked to the 70s and 80s when it was say no to drugs, which was kind of coming out of the Reagan administration. We adopted that in Canada. This is your brain. This is your brain on drugs. Everybody remember those commercials? When we developed no thanks, I'm good, we thought about those words. First part, no thanks. Polite. Very polite, no thanks. Whether it be your friend or somebody offering you drugs, you don't want to be rude, just no thanks. And the second part, and this was probably the most profound thing that my son had ever left me, was I'm good. I'm good. And it's such an empowering, those 2 words, I'm good. And we don't say that sometimes enough, that I'm good. So what Harlan left us with was a very strong statement that could be used to protect yourself from the dangers of recreational drug use. When I was going through my addiction, and I had, tried numerous attempts at recovery, Harlan was always there. He was there. We would have these talks, I would tell him what I was going through. He drove one time across the country to go get his dad because his dad had a bed at a treatment facility, and it was the dead of winter and -40, and that's what kind of kid he was. There's an iconic picture that was probably published throughout all these newspapers, and everybody saw it on the news of us when he was in the hospital, and we were forehead to forehead, this picture. And I'm sitting there, and I don't wish this on any parent. I'm the only parent. My son is laying on life support. And I'm asking him, like, what do I do? Harlan, like, what do I do? And I can hear him very clearly say to me, Dad, I'm gone. I'm gone. It took them 45 minutes to establish a heartbeat for him. So in that time, he'd suffered a catastrophic brain injury, which there was no coming back from. So hearing him say, I'm gone, and okay, what do you want me to do? And he just, I could just hear these words, tell others. I don't know if you guys believe in stuff like that, but this is what I heard. And after, excuse me, after the doctors confirmed the extent of the brain damage, we knew that the only thing left to do was to take him off life support. It's 10 months to the day that I last saw my son somewhat alive. And we watched the hockey game together because we loved our Winnipeg Jets. Actually, they got eliminated that night. Vegas beat them in the playoffs. But the next day, I had to take him off life support. So it's very paramount that, we have these discussions, that we're not afraid of having these discussions. I mean, I could drive myself crazy trying to figure out why my son said yes that night. I went through everything that did he have too much to drink? Was he trying to fit in? And youth, our young people are bombarded every day with try this, to fit in, to belong. That's why the second part of our message, I'm good, is so important, because I'm good. I'm good without that. That's what Harlan would say. Like, I'm good. I'll stick to my beer. Because in one snap decision, and this is really important to really emphasize, is one snap decision could end everything. We talk about the effects of fentanyl. Well, it's not just the physical effects of the fentanyl on the person taking the fentanyl. The effects of fentanyl is standing right before you. The effect of fentanyl are the 418 people, families that don't have their loved ones. On my way up here today, I spoke with the coroner's office, because I'm always trying to educate myself. I'm always trying to figure out, okay, where are we going? How are we doing with this? And already the numbers are for 2023 are going to surpass the numbers for 2022. So we know that fentanyl is killing our youth. Fentanyl is killing our dreams. So it's really important as parents, and I'm pleading with you to start having these discussions, with your children, to sit down, have that warm, loving talk, educate them about what we're trying to do here, and trying to save lives. Because I look at it because, one, I'm an addict, recovering addict. Two, I was a drug dealer. That as a drug dealer, I don't really care about you. I don't care. I'll be your best friend as long as you're giving me money and you're buying my drugs. I don't care. I just want the money. So from that standpoint, it's economics. As long as you want my drugs, I will be there to sell you my drugs. So I thought about that. I can't do nothing about this supply. It's a $1 billion business. So my goal is to try and eliminate the demand. Because as anybody who understands economics, supply and demand, if there's no demand, the supply will dwindle and walk away because there's nothing there for them anymore. So we can get people to understand this, youth to understand that, they have a 1 in 20 chance of dying every time they take a recreational drug. We heard, and it's unconfirmed, but was it last month? 2 months ago we were last up here? that there was a 14-year-old boy who smoked a joint, went laid on his couch, and his parents found him in the morning. He was dead. And that his marijuana was laced with fentanyl. It's a tough conversation. And it's one that has to happen. It's like I said in at the end of the video, we look to our lawmakers to make laws that to protect us. We look to the police to kind of enforce those laws that they make to ensure our safety. But with this, they can't fix this. We have to. We need to be motivated enough to say enough is enough. We need to start rising up and saying, no, this is not going to happen in our community. We need to support our young people when they make these choices of no thanks, I'm good. We need to ensure that they can safely say no thanks, I'm good without retribution, to make it something popular. We've gone through fads, we've gone through phases before with our youth. I'm hoping, because we're just starting. My son died just 10 months ago. We've been at this now for 4 or 5 months. We've talked to about 5,000 students in 7 different northern communities. We've had rallies. Anybody who watches APTN, on March 5th, I've done a face-to-face, on their national program, trying to change the tide because we are losing too many young people. A lot of people know what this is, right? This is Narcan, naloxone kit. When that event happened in the PAW, in that establishment, they didn't have this. Nobody knew how to use this. They didn't know CPR. I'm not going to say had they known, my son probably could have been alive today, but they didn't have this. If you suspect your child might be using drugs, have one of these in your home to save their life. I tell kids when I'm in visiting schools that having this in your backpack doesn't mean you're using drugs. It means you're prepared to save someone's life. It could be your father, it could be your mother, it could be your sister, it could be your friend, could be somebody at a party that you don't know. Have one of these. Learn how to use it. Because right now, this is the only defense that we have with somebody that's been poisoned by fentanyl. I wish they had that. I know after that event, they called it an event in the PAW. I think there was 6 people in one establishment. Over the course of the night, 18 people visited the hospital that night because of some really bad drugs. Those drugs eventually turned up at a hospital here in Thompson. So education is probably the only thing and the only tool that we have, because education and knowledge is empowering. The ability to use that education is strength. And it's probably the only defense that we have right now in trying to curb the ties. Yes, addiction is its whole under avenue that, yes, we need harm reduction. Yes, we need certain aspects of harm reduction to ensure that, nobody dies anymore. I kind of joke at this because, my grandmother would always said, if you don't want to get pregnant, keep your legs closed. She would say that to my sisters. And this is the same thing. If you don't want to die from fentanyl poisoning, just say no thanks, I'm good. Don't do drugs at all. We need to keep the lives of our youth alive. Their dreams, their aspirations. My son will never have children. He left me no grandchildren. I never hear his voice again. You'll never hear him laugh again. We'll never share a Jets victory, and he'll never console me when they lose. You know, it's just one of those things. But I can't emphasize enough that, have those conversations with your kids. Don't be afraid. Don't make the mistake, because this is one of the biggest lessons that we'll have today, is that it can't happen to you. Don't ever think that it can't happen to you and to your family, because it just takes one snap decision and your world changes forever. I want to introduce my wife to say a few words. And my wife is a remarkable woman. She's a residential school survivor of domestic abuse, and has made some really smart choices for her life and how she's dealt with her trauma. She was a very executive producer, executive senior manager at a national media outlet, and an award-winning journalist. And I'll let her say a few words.
My traditional name is Thunderbird, Woman Who Flies High. When this event, as they called it, happened, I was in a new relationship with my husband. We had just been newly married. We went to school together, and we reconnected 5 years ago and married 3 years ago. And 10 months ago, my last conversation with Harlan was about his girlfriend, was about his stocks and his investments, and I wanted to learn. He was an incredible young man. It still pains me that we lost him the way he did. And my husband struggles, and I commend his courage for what he does. As he said, I have 12 grandchildren and 4 daughters. He has 5 children now, 10 grandchildren, 3 great-grandchildren. Combined, we have a very large family. But the fear we have for our grandchildren and our great-grandchildren equals you as parents, what you fear for your children. We really need to work together to start making a change that our children can feel confident and feel empowered. That's why these words are so important. Identity, I know, is an issue. I grew up in a reserve. I was in residential school. I had no idea who I was when I came out of there. My grandparents took me right back to culture, right back to the sweat lodge, right back to ceremony. That has guided me my entire life. I've never smoked marijuana. I've never done drugs. I've lived traditionally. I made different choices, but I had the advantage of my elders. Seek out your elders. Live in your community. Help each other. Turn to each other. Don't be afraid to talk about this with your children. That's a mistake we make. We think we're protecting them. I thought I was. I thought I was protecting my 4 daughters, and 3 of them became addicts. 2 alcohol and 1 severe drugs. Today they are in recovery, but I thought I was protecting them by putting them in a bubble and showing them, but not talking about it. And by showing them, I mean as a journalist. It didn't work. You need to have the conversation and inform them of these decisions and the tricks that'll come along with it when they think they have friends. They think their friends are there to help them. Unfortunately, it's not true. Let them express those fears. Let them express the concerns they have when they talk about their friends. Hear them, listen to them, and encourage them. And I really hope that things are different for your family. We don't want to see this happen anymore. If we work together, we can make a change. On Facebook, if you have Facebook, we're going to tell the kids the same thing. Share with your children. We have a page. No thanks, I'm good. It's exactly the same as this banner. So if you see on Facebook, no thanks, I'm good, with the hand and the yellow and blue, click follow us. We do updates. You can also connect with my husband there. He's got a WhatsApp, and we're there to talk. We're there to listen. We're there to encourage. We'll do whatever we can to help. Just ask. We're here. Back to my husband. I think we're ready to wrap it up.
Yeah. It's having that conversation, that thing. I'm a man. I had a thought in my head. Now it's gone. You know, that's so important, you know, having the ability to talk. Looking at that, no thanks, I'm good, and looking at the colors, when we were talking about looking for the brand and trying to figure out, you know, how this was all going to look, you know, what would be attract, you know, and what would stay in someone's mind. And at the end of the day, we looked at the yellow. You'll see the yellow there. And then you'll see the sky blue. And we picked those colors because when the sun was shining and the sky was clear blue, my son was on our roof working. So we picked those colors, those words, because in my heart, my son is still working. We turn his death and this tragic event in the hopes that it will save someone else's life. That's why we went public. That's why we're having this hard conversation, because this is really hard to stand up here and talk about what happened to my boy. And I remember we were in Cross Lake, and I told her, like, with tears in my eyes, like, why do I keep doing this to myself? Why do I, you know, go in front of these people and rip my Band-Aid off every time, you know? And after we did that presentation, there was a young 14-year-old boy with tears in his eyes, gave me the biggest hug and said, thank you. Thank you for trying to save our lives and giving us this information, because we didn't know. And that said it there for me, because really, at the end of the day, this message, no thanks, I'm good, my son's death, that message outweighs the pain. And that's what we're trying to do, is get this message out to as many people as we can. So parents, please, you know, don't be afraid to have those conversations. You have an excellent staff here at R.D. Parker, who I think is just as committed as I am in turning the tide on this crisis that we have, not only with opioid addiction, but also with recreational drug use, because recreational drug use is just not safe. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for having us. And I have one more video. That's why I love my wife, because she keeps me in line and focused. When you watch this video, I really want you to remember this, because I do not want you to make this kind of video for your child. As a filmmaker, as a writer, this was the hardest video that I think I've ever had to do in my life. This is my son's life that was cut short. So remember him when you have those conversations with your children. Thank you.
Hey yo, hey, hey, remember me, when the sun comes up in the morning sky, there I will be, soaring with the eagle so high, feeling free. Remember me, down the road, hand in hand, you and me. Hey-oh, hey-oh, hey-oh. Hey-oh, hey, hey-oh, 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 hey oh, hey oh, hey oh. Remember me, when the sun comes up in the morning sky. There I will be, soaring with the eagle so high, feeling free. Remember me, down the road, hand in hand, you and me. Hey oh, hey oh, hey oh. Hey oh, hey. Hey we are waiting, oh, hey oh, hey. Hey we are waiting, oh, hey oh, hey. Hey oh, hey. Hey we are waiting, hey oh, hey oh, hey. Hey oh, hey oh, hey oh. Remember me, when the sun comes up in the morning sky. There I will be, soaring with the eagle so high, feeling free. Remember me, down the road, hand in hand, you and me. Hey-oh, hey-oh, hey-oh. Hey-oh, hey. Hey, hey-oh, hey-oh. Hey-oh, hey. Hey, hey-oh, hey-oh. Hey-oh, hey. Hey-oh, hey. Remember me, when the sun comes up in the morning sky. There I will be, soaring with the eagle so high, feeling free. Remember me, down the road, hand in hand, you and me.
Alrighty. All right, B, you ready to tackle this? Yeah, this is actually a good one. Woo. Beautiful property. Moving right out on the beautiful Clearwater Lake. Let's get to work.
Hey-oh, hey. Hey, hey-oh, hey-oh. Hey-oh, hey. Hey, hey-oh, hey-oh. Hey-oh, hey. Hey-oh, hey. Hey-oh, hey-oh, hey. Hey-oh, hey-oh. Remember me.
It's always a tough one. But yeah, that's my son. And he left us a wonderful message. In the heart of tragedy, sometimes great things are born. And it's my hope that out of this tragedy, no thanks, I'm good, will be the blessing that is born that will save the lives of many. Thank you.